Germany gets split in half. Japan gets nuked twice. Then there's Italy after World War II. Pretty much, they're still vibing. Man, what an aesthetic. It's almost like nothing even happened. Italy gets made fun of in memes. That's the worst punishment in this day and age. I will say those are some pretty high prices to pay. The nation of Poland is born in 1122. Some 900 years of tomfoolery. Ah, look at that. Right where I left them. It's almost as if nothing even happened at all. There's no way this place got constantly moved around the map and partitioned constantly. You guys are very lucky. We will never be Aryan. In August 1939, Hitler asked his personal photographer to photograph Stalin, specifically his earlobes. It was to determine whether he was an Aryan or a Jew. Hitler concluded he was, in fact, Aryan, and Himmler regarded Stalin as being descended from Nordic German Aryan blood. Ah, yes, Joseph Stalin, who was born in the nation of Georgia. That definitely checks out. I love how often it feels like they just kind of handed out the Aryan card to whoever they wanted. I don't think they really gave a frick. Literal Caucasian, though, by the way. Forgot about that part. When you put it like that, that does make more sense than Japan being honorary Aryan. Japan after 1942 was unstoppable. How did they fumble so hard? The United States invented a portable sun that could be delivered by aircraft. I mean, yeah, but there was more than just that. The Japanese Empire had already lost a lot of territory before that. That's a nice country you got there. Why don't you back it up with a national identity? My national identity is that I made it the frick up. That's how the 13 colonies did it after the American Revolution. Our national identity is just that we don't like taxes. I mean, that's good enough, I guess. I just declared war on Germany. Time for you to fight. Yes, dear, says Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. You are literally missing one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. They were literally nicknamed the Crown Jewel. Where's British Raj at? They sent over 2.5 million soldiers to fight under British command. But yeah, important to remember the full context of the map when Britain stood alone. Isn't Hitler dead? The Germans aren't supposed to be fighting. Build the bridge. Thanks for getting here before the Ivans. I surrendered my entire army. Please do not resist. Eisenhower feared that the Russians would beat Montgomery to march into Denmark. Ridgway put his bridge builders to work. While German artillery fired, Ridgway walked out on the bridge and determined that there was little danger. They won the race to Denmark just 2 hours before the Red Army arrived. Imagine if they didn't. What would happen to Lego? This would have been the world we very likely could have lived in. Bolsheviks. In an alternative universe, Lego becomes a fun toy behind the Iron Curtain called Com Block Housing Unit. I mean, I would like to have seen that kind of. Meanwhile, in communist Yugoslavia, puts the beer right in the bike. Oh, they've now just become Serbia. Frickin' Albanians. Now they got their Croatians and Bosnians and Slovenians just hanging out. Why would Albania do this, am I right? The Allies after World War II. The US and Soviet Union in a Cold War to become the dominant power. The British taking their islands back from Argentina despite losing their empire. Finally, there's the French that said lobster. The lobster war France had with Brazil. I know it sounds like a fever dream, but this was real. This video by Blue Jay does a great job explaining it all. A Union soldier in the year 1861. I'm kind of bored of being a farmer, so I think I'll go enlist. Meanwhile, a Union soldier in 1864. No peace with the drivers of our fellow humans until the last drop of blood. Funny how often this happens in war. You could say the same thing for World War I. Actually, you can probably say the same thing for all wars, just be honest. Britain and France almost siding with the Confederacy. Meanwhile, Russia of all places. I'm sure the Union side of the US was definitely not expecting that. I mean, maybe this somewhat detoured them, but I always read that British and French never seriously considered joining the Confederacy, even though obviously the Confederates really wanted that. I'm sure they secretly had back rooms discussing the possibilities, but meanwhile, France in 1871 watching everyone replace their military advisors with German ones. And this would be because the French would take a pretty big L to the Germans. They were no longer the cool toy in Andy's room. The Germans were all the rage starting in 1871 up until World War I. Interwar period. Look inside. There is war. Yeah, who the hell even named this thing? The interwar period was between World War I and World War II, but yeah, no, there were plenty of wars going on. Here are literally all the conflicts that happened 1 year after World War I ended. American schools don't teach about US imperialism, Vietnam, and war crimes. Just admit it, you didn't listen in history class, did you? I definitely feel like this is the case now. I mean, clearly a lot of people agree with this sentiment. I mean, this post alone got nearly 10,000 upvotes. And just hearing from my much younger brother what he's learning in history class, I feel like, no, he's definitely learning about this stuff. When I was in school, which was a lot longer ago, I feel like I kind of didn't. I don't know how much has changed in like 15 years. Boudica in fiction, pretty sure I'm mispronouncing that. If you ever played the strategy game Civilization 5, this is also her. First and best queen of Britain. Roman colonizers go home. Strongest warrior ever was. She was so brave. Yes, slay queen. Fighting patriarchy. However, her in reality. Oof self instead of dying like a warrior. Oof thousands of women and kids. Barbarian, probably worst general leader ever. Married a dumb king. And finally had over 300,000 soldier army it lost against 6 6,000 Roman soldiers. Didn't know any of this, but also not surprised we're romanticizing historical figures like this. Happens to them all. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how accurate those numbers really are, though. Breastplate armor of Ferdinand I, Holy Roman Emperor. Again, blood wasn't the only thing dripping on the battlefields. This would literally be like the only reason why I'd want to be the emperor. Just let me flex on all my enemies during the war. Nothing's more important than the drip. The Italian Navy versus the Italian Air Force versus, finally, the Italian Army. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert about the military of Italy during World War II. However, considering the territorial rise and fall of Benito's empire, it kind of checks out. I mean, the Italians literally lost the African front, and that's pretty much all army. I never really considered the Italian Navy to be particularly horrible or anything. In fact, the way that country is positioned on the map, they probably invested so much into their navy. Like Britain, they probably didn't focus much on their army. I guess this is all relative to the rest of the Axis members like Germany and Japan. I don't know, it's hard to say. All I'm referring to is that geographically speaking, it would make sense for the Italians not to worry much about their army, since the Alps act as a literal wall shielding everyone from them. So like Britain, they are probably better off just focusing on their navy. Soviet World War II movies during Stalinism, Can I Kiss You? Versus Soviet World War II movies after Stalin died. I have to admit, I haven't seen that many, but the ones that I have, I really like. They got some bangers. How Paraguay felt after realizing declaring a war on all his neighbors was a bad idea. They were 10 times larger than him, and he lost 2/3 of his population. War of the Triple Alliance, the most interesting South American conflict in my opinion, because it's just crazy. Trade offer! I receive your land. You receive roads, aqueducts, bread, and, well, circuses, entertainment. Gladiators. No wonder so many people gave up their land for all this. Are you not entertained? OMG, this monument is a great piece of art by the Romans. Lol, the aliens clearly built it. It couldn't have been built by humans. Why are we like this? I feel like humans have a hard time wrapping their head around it because the pyramids are so old and also ginormous. Now, this is specifically referring to the show Ancient Aliens. Everyone knows how accurate that is. We're Haitian slaves. We fought to end slavery. We're Central American slaves. We fought to end slavery. We're Janissary slaves, and what did you do? Yeah. Our blessed language, our esteemed academy, our glorious roots, our gracious grammar, our sophisticated vocabulary versus their annoying babble, their confusing concepts, their disgusting predecessors, finally their sorific seminaries. Something. Barbarian tongue on the other side. Wow, look at that. They are so different. That's crazy. My town and that other town, 10 minutes away. Classic Europe. Ancient Rome's conquests were justified mental gymnastics. The Republic's wars were all defensive, so all of them were justified. Ancient Rome's conquests were wrong mental gymnastics. Actually, they weren't all defensive wars. The Romans were warrior-like and explicitly seeked out war. Many of their peace treaties were specifically made to produce future conflicts. Their political system revolved around conquest and plunder. The defensive war argument is just a bogus excuse. Yeah, whatever. Everyone knows every conflict Rome got into was defensive. All like 100,000 of them. Me, when I defensively invade another country. Persian propaganda. Some places still do this. Failing your exam 4 times and then starting one of the deadliest wars in history. Or how about just simply passing your imperial exam? The self-proclaimed brother of Jesus himself. Guess he went with the left option because sometimes the rougher routes in life are the better ones. What is that phrase? I don't know. Why didn't you just pass your damn exam, CJ? World War I was no one's fault. World War I was Germany's fault. Finally, World War I was everyone's fault. The different takes on this world conflict in different sorts of literature. The real answer, Napoleon. Big thanks to my patrons this month. Kansas was mentioned. KingBearHaze. JohnDenver. I can't sleep without Drew's voice. DaBeautiful-MEGAN-Underwood. Archaeology. aPhatNarwhal. Carmel Saida. Pavlik. DOOCHBAGGINS. Fredrik Tibblin.
LuxembourgLover.
Traven.
Friend.
Sebby, if you hear this,
KirinoIsBestGirl.
I love you. The Mexican 760.
ZaneyBoi.